Have you ever felt like someone was watching you, even when no one was there? It's not paranoia, it's instinct, something primal that whispers when something's wrong, even if everything looks calm. Most people ignore that feeling, but anyone who's lived what she lived never sleeps in peace again. This story isn't just about fear. It's about the kind of loneliness that attracts things. About a void so deep it becomes a silent invitation to something out there. Something that answers. The truth is, no one tells you what happens after you break inside. After love dies. After everything you believed in collapses. What's left? An empty house. A body wide awake at 3 a.m. A mind trying to convince itself that the world is still safe. She moved far away, far from her ex-husband, from the memories, from the promises that turned to trash. The house was simple, but it was quiet. And deep down, that's all she wanted. Peace. But the thing is, complete silence can be louder than screams, and on the fourth night, it started knocking. She was in the kitchen, drinking the same cheap wine as always, sitting alone under the dim light of a lamp, trying to feel anything other than pain. When she heard the sound, a knock on the window, 1, 2, 3, it wasn't the wind, it wasn't a branch, it was steady, precise, as if someone knew exactly where she was. She froze, walked to the window, nothing. But as she got closer to the glass, she saw the imprint of a hand. Like someone had pressed it hard against the pane. There was no one in the yard, no sign of a break-in, only the cold certainty that someone had been there, and worse, they knew she was alone. In the following days, everything got worse. Small things started showing up, but they were deeply personal. A note on the gate, written in her ex-husband's handwriting, but it wasn't his. The letters looked copied, distorted, like a buzzing noise trapped in ink. A very specific flower, her late mother's favorite, left carefully on the front porch. And then, a photograph of her sleeping. Hair sprawled across the pillow, mouth slightly open, taken from above like someone had stood next to the bed. She went straight to the police, of course. They followed protocol, checked the cameras, nothing useful. No fingerprints, nothing, just a look of pity, like they thought she was insane. But what if she wasn't? What if it wasn't just a stalker? What if something feeds on pain? Something that hears when we scream on the inside? Something that finds people like her. Broken, weak, invisible, and moves closer. The pattern was clear. Everything that appeared was tied to her wounds. The fear of being alone, the guilt over her mother, the trauma of betrayal. It was as if someone was reenacting all of it before her, slowly, cruelly, like a personal ritual. It wasn't a man. It wasn't an animal, it was a presence. On the last night before she disappeared, she called her best friend crying. Said there was someone in the attic, that she heard footsteps, slow, deliberate. that the lights were flickering, and she felt something was going to happen, but the most disturbing part was the last thing she said before the line cut off. "I think it wants to get inside me, not to kill me, but to feel what I feel." Then, silence. The next day, the police arrived. The house was locked. No signs of forced entry, no blood, only the bed made. And the kitchen window, open, that same one, the only exit that was always there. If you made it this far, comment, "I'm here." Because some stories aren't just meant to scare you, they're meant to wake you up. To remind you that sometimes what knocks on the window is the thing you tried to forget knocking back.